And tonight on the Daily Wrap, the president's legacy takes a big hit after his prize trade deal is shot down. Find out why the so-called party of no can't be blamed by Mr. Obama this time. The GOP cast their vote against ever holding an Iowa straw poll again. We'll tell you why. And do you think it's a problem for the NAACP if its leader of a certain chapter just happens to be, I don't know, white? We discuss all of that, plus potluck and yay and nay. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome to the show, everybody. As you can see, Rick Unger back in action tonight.
Missed you guys last night.
Yeah.
I did.
And we're feeling well. You had the SARS, the Ebola. What happened exactly?
You don't want to know. I had a tooth pulled and it really messed me up.
Oh, man.
So it's part of growing up.
The worst pain there is.
Part of growing up. But I'm here tonight.
Yes,
ready to go.
We are glad you're back. And joining you is conservative radio host and blogger Stacey Washington from St. Louis.
Hey, boys.
How are you?
I'm well.
You're liking New York so far.
Yeah, but it's not my first merry-go-round, so.
Okay, not your first
We may have to
rodeo.
just keep you here then.
Outstanding.
I like it here.
Well,
I
we
rode the
like having you
subway
here.
today. Oh, my
That's
goodness.
right.
Yeah, it was cold down there, I'm sure.
Oh,
Okay,
like
let's get to the daily download.
On this vote, the ayes are 126, the nays are 302. The motion is not adopted. On this vote,
Yes, and the president's trade deal is on a fast track to nowhere. As you just heard, Democrats handing Mr. Obama a stinging defeat, rejecting a key part of the bill, meaning the entire measure can't advance. Most Republicans voted against it too. In an unusual role reversal, Speaker John Boehner sided with the president, while Minority Leader Nancy Pelosi openly defied the Democrat-in-chief.
And we want to make darn sure that there's less authority for the president and more authority for the American people. That's what this bill does. It's a means to an end, and the end is more free trade that's good for our economy and good for our country.
I will be voting today to slow down the fast track to get a better deal for the American people. Bigger paychecks, better infrastructure, help the American people fulfill the American dream.
Now, as you could expect, the White House is blowing this off as a procedural snafu. Republicans are vowing to try again next week. How big of a setback is this for the president, Mr. Unger?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's clearly a setback. We should keep in mind it doesn't mean that the trade deal itself is dead. It could mean that fast track is dead, which means that Congress will have a lot more input into what the final deal is. As you know, I've taken a position all along of I don't know if I'm for this or against this.
No one knows.
Because no, I'm not allowed to read it. And until I am, I'm not going to have an opinion. So I'm not all that displeased that this took place.
Stacey.
I'm loving it. We get to finally see in this time-space continuum, Stacey on the right agree with Nancy Pelosi. Oh my gosh, I hope a pig doesn't fly through one of these screens.
Yeah.
I have to say, I really am disappointed in how the Republicans are shooting themselves in the foot by spending time trying to fight for something that the Democrats are actually against that they shouldn't be for.
Well, there is also, we should point out, a great lesson in all of this for the president. Comes a little bit late, I'm afraid. He has not done a great job throughout his term of working with Congress. You know, I'm the first in line to say, yes, the Republicans don't ever seem to want to work with him. But you know what? This wasn't a case of the Republicans turning their back on the president. It was a case of his own party. And it happens because he doesn't spend the time you need to spend with your party to build those relationships. You can't show up at the baseball game last night and then show up on the Hill for 1 hour this morning and think all is well.
Yeah.
You know,
it was like a booty call.
He's never put the time in.
He came in late. I
Yeah.
mean, he hasn't been there for years now. He doesn't spend time with them. He doesn't return their calls. They don't eat dinner together. They don't golf together. These are people that they haven't seen this guy in years, except from behind the podium at the White House.
I read a great book, Bob Woodward's, called The Price of Politics.
Yes.
And it talked about how President Obama really is a recluse. And not just with talking to Republicans. He doesn't really like to talk to anybody, really, on the Hill. And this finally came to fruition with this particular deal. Rick, what I want to know is what does this do for his legacy? And what I mean is we counted off 3 things that could go wrong in the next 3 weeks.
This
that could
was
have a
one.
severe.
Right.
Yeah, this was one. Iran deal going south is 2. Obamacare struck down by the Supreme Court, at least a big chunk of it, 3. So this is 1 down, 2 to go.
Legacy's a funny thing because you don't know what was going to turn out good and what wasn't. A lot of people are not happy with this trade deal without even knowing what it is, because there is the fear that it will cost Americans jobs. People tend to look at the deal we made in North America some years ago, the Clinton administration made, NAFTA, and we still don't know to this day if NAFTA was responsible for job loss or not. So some will say, well, yeah, we lost jobs, it had something to do with NAFTA. Others will say this was going to happen anyhow. Nobody really knows. So it's very hard to know with trade deals if they are a good thing or a bad thing.
Stacey, are you surprised that the president pushed this deal when obviously unions were against it, when unions helped get him elected, that's his core base? It's surprising. The whole thing is upside down.
Well, it's upside down, but it doesn't surprise me at all because I've been watching this president alienate groups that had previously been major constituencies for him, the black community for one. He's done a number of things that have angered them over the years, but they remain loyal. So I think he feels as if he's kind of a Teflon Don and he can kind of ram these things through. But it's unfortunate because there's an opportunity for him at every turn, at every major piece of legislation or things like this trade deal, for him to make a true lasting part of his legacy, and he seems to be going about it in the wrong way. Not letting us know what's in it means we're not going to be for it, and that's a huge chunk of the American people, regardless of party. We like transparency.
But again, to be fair, it's absolutely standard operating procedure on trade deals not to share it for all the same reasons that nobody wants to negotiate something out in the open. The problem is going to be, will we have enough time to go through it once it's completed? With the fast track, I seriously doubt any of us, those of us who do this for a living, we're going to get to go through 4,000 pages before this thing was put into effect. There are elements to the trade deal that, from what I know about it, make sense. We know that this will make it easier for us to sell our goods overseas. That's important. On the other hand, it's the jobs thing. If we can be sure that this is not going to cost American jobs, I think you'll see Democrats supporting the trade deal. Everybody wants to see more trade overseas. If we can't be sure about that, then this may never happen now.
Stacey, do you think after 2014 and the president lost the Senate, or his party did anyway, then everybody was talking about he was already a lame duck at that point because he doesn't have Congress and he doesn't have the Senate, and how's he going to be able to do anything? And he shocked a lot of people, and maybe for people like Rick was like, wow, go President Obama, because he was still very proactive, he was defiant, he was going to get things done whether people liked it or not. Does this now make him, maybe not this deal, but let's say one of the other 2 things we talked about, Obamacare or the Iran deal, does this make him officially a lame duck?
Well, this president enjoys the use of the pen and the phone. And so then after the pen and the phone have been used, you have to wait for lawsuits to make their way up to the Supreme Court. And so it means that he's able to claim victory pretty quickly by simply issuing an executive order. I think he's going to continue to do that. Regardless of what the Supreme Court decides on Obamacare, he's going to continue to plow through because he does have an agenda to complete, and he doesn't really see Congress as someone he can work with.
Although he's already, the whole pen and the phone thing was really applied to immigration, what he did. And that's already been pretty well stopped by the circuit court down in the 5th District.
It was kind of delicious to see how they smacked that down. And then he continued on with it, and they smacked it down again.
Were you surprised that Hillary Clinton never weighed in on this one way or another? She will.
She will, at the right time.
At the right time.
And depending on what happens.
Hillary's numbers are down, and so weighing in on things is a double whammy for her. It's a two-edged sword because she's losing among her demographics. She's got the solid warriors stepping away from her, waiting for someone else to come in. And we all know what happens when Hillary gets in front of the camera. People realize how much they don't like her.
Let me ask you when you're done.
She's in a tough spot on this because she was supportive of the trade deal
in
earlier,
2012.
And now it looks like it may not be the best thing to do if you're running for president as a Democrat. Absolutely. So she's in a tough spot. Best thing to do when you're in a tough spot is try not to say anything.
Right.
This is your first time here. This will be a very quick answer. So we talk about, okay, Hillary's support is soft, right? It's weak and it's dropping. Then we always say, but who's the alternative? So who would you see as an alternative? Not current field, but who could step in? And everybody gives me that same look.
There
is
none.
The
bench is empty.
Biden?
Hillary?
No. I get emails from Draft Biden. It's like a committee that they're trying to drum up support to draft Joe Biden to run.
Really?
That would be a dream for us. This
Actually,
guy can't even talk without making mistakes.
Actually, he can. He's actually, he would be a wonderful candidate, but he won't be the candidate.
Okay, so coming up next, another GOP candidate is embracing Caitlyn Jenner into the party. We'll tell you who next. Keep it right there. And welcome back to The Wrap. I'm Joe Concha, along with my co-host, Rick Unger and Stacey Washington. Welcome again. Well, it's the last straw in Iowa. That's because Republican leaders have agreed to end the state's straw poll because of a decline in interest from presidential hopefuls as well as questions about its relevancy. The Iowa straw poll was started in 1979 and has been held every summer before a contested presidential caucus. Will this have any kind of impact on the 2016 field?
Absolutely none. Look, I mean, here's what we know. There's only been 2 times since the straw poll started that it actually predicted the winner of the Iowa caucuses that count. Both of them, by the way, were named Bush, interestingly. But here's the real reason they're going away. It costs the candidates a ton of money to rig the straw poll to win. So, you know, people don't realize this is a big party they have that day. It's a big state fair, lots of fried ice cream and other horrible things. And you pay. You pay to win.
And they have to bring in busloads of
Exactly,
supporters.
and that
those
costs
people
money.
have to be on the ground. They have to have somewhere to stay. They have to be fed. They have to be paid.
Candidates are happy to see it go.
You have stolen my thunder because I wanted to read just how inaccurate this straw poll was. Okay, George H.W. Bush won a straw poll in 1979, beating a guy named Ronald Reagan. Okay, so now we're 0 for 1. 87, Pat Robertson won.
That's
like
right.
easily, 34% of the vote. Right, and Dole was second, and then the Vice President of the United States was third, which is amazing. And he went on to win. 95, Dole and Phil Gramm tied somehow, 24.4 each. There had to be a decimal in there somewhere that gave it to one or the other. Then George W. Bush won in 2000. Okay, 2007, Mitt Romney won. Remember, that's the year he didn't get the nomination, right? Okay. But listen to this one, 2011. Your winner,
all know who it is.
Michelle Bachmann. You know who she beat? Ron Paul.
Well,
in that straw poll.
He came in second?
He came in second.
Which he's notorious for winning these things because he has an army of supporters and they don't have to be paid. He just tells them where to show up and they show up. Yeah, and that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's true. So I read that and I said, wow, that's just amazing just how hard. I want it here because I want to see who would have won this year, and it probably would have been Trump or maybe, I don't know, Jindal or somebody.
No, it actually, in Iowa, it probably would have been Mike Huckabee.
Yeah, it would have been
Huckabee would have won.
Yep. Who will not be the nominee.
No, of course not. It is bad news, however, for we the media, who had a great time getting 3 good news cycles out of the straw poll, even though it meant nothing.
You'll have to fill that with something else.
Yeah, I get to ask the question, what does it mean? Right? And you say it means so in Iowa and no other state. So, yeah, we're sad to see it go. Anyway, once again, Caitlyn Jenner, formerly known as Bruce Jenner, is finding himself in the middle of the 2016 debate. This time, Rick Santorum got to field the question.
If Caitlyn Jenner wanted to endorse me, would I accept the endorsement? The answer is, if that's the way she feels about my candidacy, sure. I accept whatever reason anybody wants to vote for me, whoever they are. Of course, I accept their vote.
Now, Rick, when you're Rick Santorum and you recently had an event in Iowa where 1 person showed up, it eventually grew to 4.
Grew to 4.
Perhaps you do want Jenner's vote, because then you've increased your voters
25%.
by exactly.
It's huge.
Yeah, so this we heard it from Lindsey Graham. With Lindsey Graham, it felt very genuine, I have to say. With Santorum, I don't know about genuine or not, but is it amazing that our political dialogue is now who will get the Jenner vote?
I just don't understand why this is a thing. I mean, there's so much more for us to be talking about and educating people about, and then people having discussions because we need to know about these things. And then we have the Jenners/Kardashian issue, and they just don't go away. I mean, they're literally everywhere.
Well, you ain't seen nothing. Wait till you see his reality show. It's gonna be huge.
Oh yeah, it'll make tremendous.
Huge.
Tremendous.
Will I be the only one not watching it?
You may be. You may be.
Well, as you may have heard, it's all about the base. And Hillary Clinton is having some issues. A long-time, we just discussed that before actually, a long-time Democratic pollster has checked out some recent polls and he found some ominous signs for Mrs. Clinton. For starters, she's losing support among her base, women, highly educated voters, young voters, non-whites. Questions about her honesty and trustworthiness are down among these groups as well. And when it comes to younger voters, get this, Benghazi is hurting her the most. How do you react when you hear these numbers for the Clinton campaign, Stacey?
It's to be expected. I said this on air months ago. When people start listening to Hillary on the issues, they were going to be turned off. And this is true. Benghazi is a bit of a surprise because I thought people were tired out on that and, you know, kind of like, let's move on. She already said, what difference does it make? But it turns out younger people are concerned about that. So it's an opportunity for the Republicans. Let's see if they can actually grab hold to it and not waste it, squander it, turn it into a loss.
Do you think anything will come out of when she does testify again in front of Trey Gowdy's group at all?
Those of us who have spent way too many hours digging into the real Benghazi story know what the story is, know that they're not getting anywhere with Hillary on this, and that will not even be an issue in the campaign. Now, these other things might be, but nobody should fool themselves into believing she's not getting the Democratic nomination unless she gets hit by a bus, you know.
Right.
Hopefully that wouldn't happen. She's getting the nomination, and then it depends on who the Republicans nominate. Republicans can win if they pick the right person.
Okay. Well, Mrs. Clinton has been increasingly dogged by questions surrounding donations to her husband's Clinton Foundation while she was Secretary of State. But the former president says all this talk is politically motivated.
Nobody even suggested it or talked about it or thought about it till the political season began, and somebody said, well, what about this? No one has ever asked me for anything or any of that.
Now, Stacey, is this another vast right-wing conspiracy? Or is there something real here with the Clinton Foundation?
Well, I mean, I think the issue with the, Stephanopoulos giving money and not disclosing it and then kind of being a champion for them, that was an issue. I think it's something, if you care about that type of thing, I don't know that all Americans do. I don't know that your average everyday American who's low info or moderate info is going to care a lot about why the Clintons received a donation from this person or that person.
So, Rick, it's a bubble story, basically.
Well, there's a reality to it that you have to dig in more, but he's not really telling the way it is.
Okay. Well, coming up, surprising new information today about the leader of the NCAACP. We'll tell you what next. And welcome back to The Wrap. Well, joining us now, you've seen her on Fox News. Perhaps you've seen her at your medical office. Dr. Kelly Powers joins us for the fun part of the show.
Of course, the right time.
Now it's a party. The leader of a Washington State NAACP chapter is under investigation by the state, and this after identifying herself as black on a city job application. Why is she in trouble? That's because her white parents say she's lying.
She's told herself, as well as she's told others, this erroneous identity of hers enough that by now she may believe it more than she believes the truth.
Wow, looks a little different there. The 37-year-old Rachel Dolezal, who's been estranged from her parents for years, is standing by her claim.
Would you identify yourself as an African American?
I actually don't like the term African American. I prefer black. And I would say that if I was asked, I would definitely say that yes, I do consider myself to be black.
So, in a statement, the NAACP says racial identity was not a qualifying criteria for leadership in the group, and that it's standing by Dolezal. How does this get untangled, Ms. Powers?
This is bizarre, really bizarre, blowing up all over social media.
Before you answer, you are white, correct?
Yes.
Okay, we have to now, officially, everybody's going to be asked this question. So be prepared to answer.
You are white.
Okay.
No, I'm ready. I'm ready.
You're ready?
I'll wait until you come directly to me. You go ahead, Kel.
Go ahead, Kel.
You take this away.
I think she was blonder than me, actually, to start, right? This is bizarre. And, no, of course it doesn't matter if she's black or if she's white and she's a leader of the NAACP. Yeah. But what does matter is that she lied, right? She was hired under false pretenses. This is questioning her integrity, her honesty, and it's just sad all around.
Okay, you've been chomping at the bit to talk about this since you got here.
I don't have very much to say about it, except that, first off, I want to direct the viewers to head on over to Twitter and type in Ask Rachel. Black Twitter has been having fun with this for about 8 hours now, and prepare to cry laughing because the questions are amazing. Like, what happens if you haven't taken the frozen chicken out of the freezer before your mom drives up? What do you do? I mean, there's amazing questions on there, but the bigger deal here is not the fact that she's white and she's the head of the NAACP. The issue is that this woman teaches African American studies. She's passing off as a black person. Now, that definitely means that being black is cooler than it was.
Her family, though, like what you
but
told me.
Her parents, 2 white people. Those are her birth parents. They actually adopted 4 black kids, and then
really her?
That's really her.
4 black kids
But
they
look,
adopted.
she had 4 black brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
She
Well, these
obviously
are
felt
actually her
left out.
husband's kids. So these are, and so she has a black child, and then I mean, this story is so fascinating. But suffice it to say, does it matter that she's black and she heads up an NAACP chapter? Obviously not. Does it matter that she felt like she needed to pass as a black person in order to head up an NAACP chapter, in order to teach African studies, in order to do all of these things that she's done? Yeah, that kind of matters.
Point. Now, your nickname is Wonder Bread, so I don't have to ask you that
I want to
particular
know
question.
where is the Paul McCartney, Michael Jackson music when we need it?
Emery
We should be
and
listening to Ebony and Ivory right now. Look, my favorite part of the whole story is that the regional NAACP stood up for her. I think that's awesome. Apparently, she may not be really black, but she's done a heck of a good job as president of the Spokane chapter, and that's what matters. No, she shouldn't have lied about it, but you know, as I was telling our new friend here, all of us white Jewish kids from the suburbs, we all think we're black. So, you know, she just went a little further.
So you would be on the continuum of my 50 shades of black.
Yeah, I'm running for the NAACP leadership here in New York City.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. It sounds good. I mean, if you do a good job, I think you could totally
there you
step
go.
into that.
Yeah.
I just feel like, for 1 second, can we just take this moment? It's cool enough to be black to pass.
Yes.
Boom.
Okay.
2015.
We're taking the moment.
Life is taking a change.
Meanwhile, in a related story, the owners of a barbecue joint north of Denver have caused quite a stir with their promotion, White Appreciation Day. The owners are Mexican American and say the promotion started out as a joke, but it got very serious after the place received some bomb threats. They say there's Hispanic Heritage Month, Black Heritage Month, months for just about every other ethnic group. They say White Appreciation Day was designed to celebrate all Americans. Okay, Rick, do these guys have a point?
I don't know, but I feel very appreciated right now.
You should.
Thank you.
The name of the barbecue joint is Rubbin' Butts Barbecue.
Tremendous place.
I'm ready to go visit and just check out the food.
Kelly, you worked as a waitress there once, I believe,
Oh,
right?
of course.
On
yeah.
roller
Aren't we going
skates.
there afterward? I
we
thought
are.
That was
Yeah.
why I came today.
I want to be
All right.
appreciated
Wow. But
for my whiteness.
But bomb threats. And the best part is that the owners weren't even white.
Yeah, no,
Right.
that's,
Is
that
that's,
true?
that's,
Yes.
the
That's
twist
great.
in the story that's
That's really
fantastic.
cool.
Yeah.
Mexican American. Okay. Well, coming up next, we stick with the whole race thing. In 2016 hopeful Ben Carson has an idea for a new government program. What is it?
Ivory live together in perfect harmony.
And welcome back to Daily Wrap. Before we get going here, we want to hear your thoughts on the issues we're talking about tonight. Go to newsmax.com/comments and let us know. Share. We may share what you shared or something. Well, 2016 hopeful Ben Carson is raising a few eyebrows after he said he'd set up a department to spy on government workers in an effort to improve efficiencies.
Thinking very seriously about doing is adding a covert division of people who look like people in this room, who monitor what government people do. And we make it possible to fire government people.
Now, to Mr. Carson's point, a recent government report found it may take more than a year to fire a government worker. Is this what it would take to improve efficiencies in government, Mr. Unger?
You know, the amazing thing about Ben Carson is he will occasionally make a good point and find the worst possible way to make it. He's done this over and over and over again. It's true, it does take a long time to fire government workers, and I do think that should be fixed. I don't think that it's in our best tradition to create a covert division to spy on these people. That is such a perfect Ben Carsonism.
So here's where I think he shows that he's not the most adept politician. I agree with what he's saying. In other words, whenever you call customer service, right, for anything, I call Amazon, they say, this call may be recorded for quality purposes. So that's what he's saying, that we monitor more of the way government workers are handling themselves. It's not necessarily spying, it's just more micromanagement. And that's what he should have said, but he didn't, and now this is the headline that you see.
Well, here's the issue. So he should be the Surgeon General of the United States, not the President. And I love Ben Carson. I've heard him speak in person. He's an amazing man. He's phenomenal, but he's not presidential material. That being said, I have family members who work for the federal government, and they do very well, and they even joke around about how difficult it is to get rid of a bad employee, someone who's working for them or working with them that they can't get rid of.
Why is it so hard?
Because, well, they're unionized, and also the processes have been set up by federal employees for the benefit of federal employees to make sure that you can't let them go easily. So it's a two-edged sword, but something has to be done.
Now, Kelly, you're a doctor, as I've read. I've never actually visited you at your office, but
you're welcome anytime.
All that said, is America ready for a doctor president?
Well, you know, I was very hopeful, and I do like Ben Carson a lot as a person, and I do agree with that, actually. I think he'd make a really good Surgeon General. He doesn't have much experience, and that is a factor. I am still a supporter. I don't know if he's the frontliner right now.
He's up there.
But back to this whole, you know, spying on government workers. The critics have certainly blown this way out of proportion, and I agree with you, Joe. I think that if you just worded it a little differently, he wouldn't be taking this much heat.
The problem is he does it all the time. He says the most outrageous things. He is a very smart man. We all know this, and I agree with you. I've interviewed Ben Carson. He is a nice, decent guy, but at a point, you can't say these offensive, ridiculous things and expect people to want you to be the president.
Okay. Well, speaking of interesting people, turning to international affairs, Russian President Vladimir Putin kept the Pope waiting for more than an hour at the Vatican. A spokesman for Putin says talks in Milan went a little longer than expected, and that the motorcade moved slowly through Milan and Rome, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, is there a pattern? Because Putin was also late to his first meeting with the Pope in 2013. And this is the guy, you have to remember, that stole Bob Kraft's 2004 Super Bowl ring right from under his nose when they met as well. That took some serious brass. So, let's discuss this. Ms. Powers, late for the Pope. Does this guarantee he will be pushing a boulder for eternity in hell?
I have one word. Ego. Okay, so I'm one of those people that may be 5 minutes perpetually late. Fine, I'll admit that on TV. However, I'm not a world leader, and I'm not a religious leader. And when a world leader and a religious leader get together, you really should be there on time.
She makes a point. Stacey?
I mean, I really don't have a comment about this. People run late all the time. It's not like a strange thing to have someone have something happen. Maybe he had to run to the bathroom. Maybe he couldn't make it.
Well, let's not talk about that. People
I'm just
about to have
saying,
dinner.
These are real possibilities.
He kept John Kerry waiting once 3 hours, not too long ago.
Who did?
Putin did.
Oh, Putin did.
Yeah.
Well, that was
also,
on
it's
purpose.
Putin. I mean,
you think he called from the car and said, Pope Frankie, baby, I'm running late. Is it okay?
Yeah, they said they did that.
Okay, so it's no big deal. I wonder who would be later in that situation, Putin or Mayor de Blasio?
I'm going to go with de Blasio on that one, actually. The New York Post actually gave de Blasio an alarm clock, like one of those fake ones with the big
he's using it because he's
rings
not
at the
so
top.
good at, and he's been later for things that were worse to be late for.
Wow. And they have so much in common, de Blasio and Putin, on so many levels.
Don't go there. I know what you were thinking.
Yes. Anyway, Pope Francis is also making headlines after a BuzzFeed report that says he'll meet with a gay activist in Paraguay in July. This would be the first time the Pope has publicly met with an LGBT political activist. The Pope says he's still against same-sex marriage, but what's the significance of this meeting? We only got about 10 seconds.
The most significance is it was the Pope who asked for the meeting. And very cool. Good for you, Pope Frankie. I love this guy.
All right. Well, when you call somebody Pope Frankie, obviously that is a term of affection. No question about it. From the Jewish guy in the panel, no less. So, coming up next, it's potluck time. Well, solo potluck. This is the Daily Wrap. Do not go anywhere. And welcome back to Daily Wrap. It's potluck time, part of the show. We go around the table, share our favorite stories of the day. I will go first and last today. Oh, look at that, Media Watch with Concha, yes. So, Mika Brzezinski, you may have heard of her. She is the co-host of Morning Joe, alongside Joe Scarborough. And I'm watching this morning, and I was struck that Mika just decided to bare her soul on national television, doing something that you don't hear even opinion hosts do very often, at least this early on, when you have possibly 16 candidates on the GOP side, and you already have 4 on the Democratic side. Obviously, Mika's dad worked for a Democratic administration, and she said, you know what, this is what I want. I want to see a female president, and I want to see a Democrat win the next election. And then she went on to say, however, that she has serious reservations about Hillary Clinton in terms of the foundation and taking gifts from foreign governments, and just everything about her makes her want to pause and say, yes, I want a woman, but do I want this woman? So a couple of points here. All right, that I was surprised. Now, I'm not surprised she supports Hillary Clinton, because she's not going to support the other guys because they have virtually no chance of winning. But just to come out and say that, just right at the front, I found that to be at least admirable to a certain extent, because she's wearing her heart in her sleeve. But then the part about saying that, you know what, I really have serious reservations about Hillary Clinton, I just wonder if that's a problem that a lot of Democratic women have. They want a female president, they just don't want this female, Rick.
It's not just Democratic women. I think it's a problem that a lot of Democrats are having. You know, I mean, I didn't see it as that big of a deal that she said it. Mm-hmm. She just said what so many of us are thinking. Nobody feels good about knowing that their candidate brings all this baggage with them, which makes it harder. We've been sitting here talking in the break as to how a Republican could win in the next election, and this could largely be a part of why. What did get to me, I got to tell you, I was watching too this morning, and I had to tune the show out, because after Mika made her stand, or whatever you want to call it, and she wasn't getting the necessary support from the other people on the show, she began sulking. And I don't need sulking at 6:30 in the morning.
You want energy.
The drama is just, I don't know what they're thinking. I tuned it out and put something up on Twitter.
They lost you. Let me ask you this, because you're a Democrat, and you'll probably vote for Hillary Clinton. Is there any Republican that you would at least consider if you were that turned off by Hillary? Because you're not crazy about Hillary. You're on this show every night. You're a co-host. I know.
Yeah, I mean, I have said that I probably wouldn't vote for any of the Republicans, but I think I could sleep at night with Jeb Bush in the White House. I could sleep at night with your boy in the White House.
John Kasich, by the way, everybody. I've declared it on this show. I am a Kasich guy.
Those two are probably the only ones that I think I'd have a certain measure of peace with.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe Marco Rubio, but I don't think he's there. But I would much prefer a Democrat. Okay. I would.
Are you willing to now say on international TV, by the way, I understand that we're watched in St. Bart's.
Yes.
A friend of my dad's actually watched us on DirecTV.
I think we should go down and see for ourselves.
Oh yeah, you should see this place. But who would you support right now, if you just had to put it out there?
I would love to see Marco Rubio be able to pull it out. Mm-hmm. I don't know if he can, but I would enjoy that so much. He's young, he has a young family, and he's impressed me a great deal when he's spoken on a number of issues. I know there's some talk among the hard right about his immigration stance, but I think that's something that can be worked through. I really think he would be great. I'd love to see Carly Fiorina on the VP side. I like her. I know people say, oh, she hasn't done anything. That's bullcrap. I think she'd make a great VP.
You don't think that the HP thing would come back to bite her?
I think it's already back, and she's handled the questions on it.
She has handled it well. Yep,
yeah. She's great on the stump.
She's run a good campaign.
She's amazing with questions, and she never backs down.
She has double her numbers. No, if they were 2%, they're 4%. That could get her into the debate, perhaps. Okay, Ms. Powers. Okay. I asked you during the commercial, so I won't ask you now. You're not willing to declare quite yet.
I don't think I'm ready.
But tell me about women's problems with Hillary. I don't know where you stand politically, but I'd like to get your perspective.
So, do I think a woman should be president? Absolutely.
No one argues that.
Hillary Clinton? No.
Why?
So I will declare that. There you go.
Okay.
For what I know you guys were talking about it in the earlier block, trust issues, going further to the left, media avoidance. You know, she's just hiding and putting her head deeper in the sand.
That will change it, you know.
It will change eventually, but she's got to change soon. I don't know what's going on, but just in general, integrity of journalism this week. It's New York Times with Rubio attacking him. And I will say that I am a fan of Rubio. I don't know if I'm ready to declare that yet.
New York Times has gone after Hillary, too. They have.
But
they're the ones who did all the exposés on the... No, actually, everybody wants to go there because that's what he's saying. But let's be serious about this. What that story really hit on was how Senator Rubio used the state's Republican Party's credit card to pay for pavers in his front yard, as you said, no small cost, and to pay for a family trip. That is not kosher. And nobody should feel okay about that. Rubio can raise money trying to dismiss it, but that's real. And by the way, it's the tip of the iceberg. There's more coming.
Well, either way, the poll here seems that it would be 3 against Hillary and 1 soft support, but you would take her over any of the Republicans that you named.
Yes, there are other Democrats I prefer, but she's the one we got.
Okay, I'd love to hear who those Democrats are, maybe in the next block. Up next, it's time for Yay or Nay. This is the Daily Wrap, live from New York City. And welcome back to the Daily Wrap. It's happy hour time. That means it's time for Yay or Nay. First up, the drought situation in Southern California and the restrictions on water usage as a result are getting more and more intense. Case in point, drought shaming. Yes. Tony Corcoran, he's one of the drought shamers in the area, has been spending most of his free time going around several communities finding water abusers and posting more than 100 videos on YouTube of people using water when they're not supposed to. Other people are even going as far as posting private addresses to Twitter with the hashtag drought shaming. Is this argument all wet, Ms. Powers?
So I am a yay and a nay.
Ooh.
I think the address shaming is definitely a nay. I mean, that's horrible, right? You can't just put someone's address up on social media. But, you know, at least this guy walks the walk and talks the talk, right?
That's
true.
I think you have a future in politics. You're both a yay and a nay.
Right? I'm just trying to
definitely.
But, you know, I mean, he walks the walk, and he's putting himself out there, and he's shaming people, and I guess they should be shamed.
Yeah, absolutely. There's literally no water out there. Stacey.
Nay, dude is a wannabe police guy, and he's encouraging behavior that would be really frowned upon and should get him suspended from Twitter, which is address posting. You know, that's against the Twitter terms of service. So somebody should be losing their account. They should be getting completely kicked off.
Wow, the George Zimmerman of sprinklers.
Tough, yeah.
You know?
Yep.
I'm actually with the doc. He shouldn't be putting addresses up, but he should be posting the pictures. I'm glad he's doing that.
Absolutely. It appears to be working. Next, a 32-year-old mother of 4 with cervical cancer was told by her doctors that she needed to have surgery because they believed the cancer had spread to lymph nodes in her pelvis. Only during the surgery, her doctors realized that the bright spots showing in her body image scan were not actually signs that she had cancer, or that it spread, I should say, but rather that they were just the woman's tattoos. To make matters worse, the woman had already removed her pelvic lymph nodes as part of her cervical cancer treatment. Apparently, tattoo ink shows up in scans a lot. More from Ms. Powers in a moment. Shouldn't we have a better way to differentiate between tattoo ink and cancer? Doc.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely should have a way, but they use the latest imaging advancement, which is a PET scan and a CT scan. So radioactive substance and then a serial radiographs, which is a CT scan. So here's the problem, though. The doctors acted because they saw positive cancer. If they didn't act and it was cancer, they would be in a lot of hot water.
That's interesting.
Right? I think this is more of a...
she'd be in.
Well, right, exactly. So it would be bad for both. So yes, this is a terrible situation.
But wait, did you say that she had already had something taken out?
Some of her, so her pelvic lymph nodes.
And didn't she know that? Wouldn't she have told her doctors that?
Well, I mean, my question is, what kind of tattooing did she have that in that area of her body? Number one, and number two, it's interesting because you can totally live without pelvic lymph nodes. I mean, that's not life threatening, but it seems to me that we have all of these imagery. It could be done better.
That's true.
Yeah.
And Kelly was telling us during the break that she actually has a tattoo of McDreamy, or is it McSteamy? One of the two.
It got me through residency.
Oh,
Come on,
okay,
of course.
Very good. Well,
I didn't hear this story.
Definitely not.
Yeah, I missed it too.
Yeah. We'll discuss it in the After the Show show. Anyway, the fantasy adventure film Tomorrowland was supposed to bring in big bucks for Disney. Had a lot going for it. Pretty successful director. That's Brad Bird. He did Mission Impossible, and a big-time Hollywood actor in the form of George Clooney, and of course the Disney name. But apparently that just wasn't enough for Tomorrowland. The film cost $180 million to make. It's set to lose $140 million when all is said and done. It's like like Beverly Hills Cop 3, but different. As films with significantly smaller budgets are winning at the box office, like Pitch Perfect 2 and 50 Shades of Grey, are big summer blockbusters dying, Mr. Hollywood? Yay or nay? Quickly.
Well, it depends on what the blockbuster is. Marvel films are still doing just fine, thank you very much.
Good point.
I'd say nay, they're not dying, but this film just totally sucked. We went to see
That
it with
would
the
do it?
kids,
Oh, you did
and
see it.
only the youngest thought it was good.
A bad script's a bad script.
Kelly.
I'm a nay, and I'm deferring back to Mr. Hollywood over there.
Okay, very good. Well, finally tonight, rugby players are known for being tough and taking a lot of hits without all those cushy pads American football players wear. Well, wait till you see this video of an Australian rugby player named Ben Ross. Show it quickly.
Not quick enough.
Okay, so here we go. So this is an arm wrestling match, and they're supposed to be going at it, and then suddenly something very bad happens, and the man actually breaks his arm. That's true. Panels, thanks so much for being here. We appreciate it. We got to go. J.D. Hayworth is next.
It's got
Who's
a high
Next
note.
Prime.